The wind cut through the frozen plains like a sharp blade, making every step a struggle. Jagged ice crags jutted up from the ground, casting long shadows under the dim light of the planet's twin moons. In the middle of this frozen wasteland, a small figure crouched, hugging herself tightly. Her skin was pale with a faint, silvery glow, a natural trait of her species that helped them survive the dark cold of their home world. But here, even that glow could not protect her from the icy gusts. She shivered violently, teeth chattering as she wrapped her thin arms around her body. Her breath came out in misty clouds, each one vanishing instantly in the freezing air. The girl had nothing with her. No food, no shelter, no companion. She had wandered away from a small outpost, hoping to find a safe place to rest, but the cold was merciless. She had survived this long only because of her species' ability to generate heat through their own bodies, but it was never enough for very long. Now she was exhausted and weakening. Her limbs ached, and her glowing eyes flickered with a mix of fear and determination. All she could do was keep moving, hoping that something, or someone, would appear before it was too late. Meanwhile, a human scout named Aaron was trudging through the same harsh terrain. He had been sent from a distant research station to explore and map this uncharted planet. The readings had indicated life, but nothing prepared him for the sight of a lone alien girl in the middle of a frozen desert. She looked almost fragile, her glowing eyes scanning the area as if she were afraid to be caught, and her small body trembling violently against the cold. Aaron had been trained for hostile environments. He knew the dangers: predators, hostile natives, or even simple exposure to the harsh weather could kill quickly. But as he observed her, something inside him stirred, a protective instinct he hadn't anticipated. He had faced danger countless times, yet this moment felt different. This was not a battle to be fought or a mission to be completed. It was life itself, fragile and precious, standing before him in need. The girl noticed him too, and her body tensed. Her species communicated through gestures and subtle expressions, and her extended hands were a silent plea. She offered the only thing she could, her warmth. She could not speak his language, and he could not speak hers, yet her meaning was clear. She was asking for help, and in her culture, offering warmth to someone outside her immediate family was a profound act of trust and vulnerability. Aaron hesitated for only a moment. His training told him to keep distance, to assess threats, but he quickly realized this was not a threat. Slowly, he set down his pack and unfastened the thermal blanket he always carried for emergencies. The blanket was heavy, insulated, and designed for the worst conditions imaginable. He held it out toward her. The girl tilted her head, unsure what to make of this strange, thick material. She sniffed at it, then cautiously pulled it closer, wrapping it around herself. Immediately, a sigh of relief escaped her lips. She pressed her face into the blanket, feeling warmth that was not just physical but emotional. It was a comfort she had never known, a feeling that made her heart flutter with something she could not name. Aaron knelt beside her, careful not to startle her further. "It's okay," he said softly, in the only language she might not understand but would recognize in tone. "You're safe now." He did not try to touch her, not yet. He only offered his presence, letting her feel that she was not alone. For the first time in hours, perhaps days, the alien girl relaxed. Her small hands clutched the blanket and her body stopped trembling so violently. Her glowing eyes met his, and there was something almost like gratitude shining within them. In her species, showing warmth to another was rare and deeply personal. In this moment, she understood that he had returned the gift, not with warmth alone, but with thought, care, and respect. Night fell quickly on the icy plains, and the temperature dropped even further. Aaron knew they could not stay in the open. He scanned the area and spotted a small crevice in the ice, barely large enough for two people. Carefully, he guided her toward it. She hesitated at first, then followed, trusting him completely. Inside, it was cramped but safe from the worst of the wind. He helped her settle down, covering both of them with his blanket. The alien girl pressed close, instinctively seeking warmth. Aaron wrapped his arms around her, not in a way that would frighten her, but simply to share body heat. It was a strange experience for him, yet he felt an unexpected calm, as if the universe had shifted to reward small acts of kindness. She hummed softly, a sound he could not identify, but it was musical and full of emotion. He realized it was the closest thing she had to speech in this moment, a wordless expression of relief and trust. Sleep came slowly. Aaron's mind wandered as he watched her doze, glowing faintly under the blanket's folds. He thought about how fragile life could be, even for someone who could survive extremes of cold naturally. He thought about how a single act, a single gesture, could change the course of another being's existence. And he understood something profound. Survival was not just about strength or technology. It was about connection, empathy, and the willingness to care for someone other than yourself. When he finally drifted into a light sleep, he felt her small hands brushing against his arm. Not threatening, not demanding, simply a presence. He realized she had not just accepted his warmth, she had accepted him as a companion, a protector, and perhaps, in her own way, a friend. The morning light was pale and harsh. Aaron could see frost on the edges of their small cave, and he knew they could not remain here long. He packed his supplies carefully, making sure she had everything she needed. The girl watched him, her eyes glowing faintly, and mimicked some of his motions, showing a surprising ability to learn quickly. She could not speak, yet communication flowed between them in gestures, glances, and actions. As they moved through the frozen wasteland, Aaron began to teach her small skills: how to walk without slipping on ice, how to recognize dangerous terrain, and how to use her body to conserve energy in extreme cold. She was an eager learner, attentive and quick, and he found himself marveling at her resilience. For her part, the alien girl showed him things he could never have imagined. Small bursts of heat from her body could thaw frozen water or keep delicate plants alive in extreme conditions. She had instincts for finding shelter, predicting storms, and sensing creatures that might be dangerous long before they appeared. Together, they complemented each other perfectly: human ingenuity and alien adaptation, united by trust and necessity. The days stretched on, and the frozen planet seemed unending, but neither faltered. When hunger gnawed at them, the human shared his rations without hesitation. When exhaustion threatened, she rested against him, drawing strength from the warmth and care he offered. They had no common language, yet they understood each other more deeply than many beings could understand their closest kin. One night, a fierce storm struck without warning. The wind tore at their temporary shelter, and the cold threatened to overwhelm them. Aaron held the girl close, wrapping his body around her to protect her from the worst of the chill. She responded instinctively, generating her natural heat in short bursts, warming his arms and chest. Together, they survived the night, each sustaining the other in a way that neither could have done alone. By the next morning, the storm had passed, leaving the landscape blanketed in fresh snow. Tracks showed signs of unknown creatures nearby, and the planet's dangers were far from over. Yet the alien girl walked with renewed confidence, trusting Aaron to lead and protect her. And he, in turn, felt a responsibility he had never known before, not just for survival, but for nurturing the fragile trust that had blossomed between them. It became clear to both of them that their journey had only just begun. The frozen wasteland was dangerous, and many challenges lay ahead. But for the first time, each knew they were not alone. The human had given her warmth, safety, and companionship, and she had given him trust, resilience, and a quiet, unspoken bond that transcended language and species. Even as distant stars twinkled above the icy plains, promising unknown adventures and threats, they pressed onward. Each step was a testament to what could happen when beings of different worlds chose to care for one another, when small gestures of warmth and kindness became the most powerful forces in the galaxy. And somewhere deep in the endless white, the alien girl realized she had found more than survival. She had found a friend, a protector, and perhaps even a hope for something greater. And Aaron realized that sometimes the smallest acts, the simplest gifts, could change lives in ways that weapons, technology, or strength never could. They moved forward together, a human and an alien girl, in a harsh world where nothing could survive without help. Yet in each other's presence, they had discovered something stronger than survival: trust, friendship, and the quiet, unstoppable power of care. By the time they reached the edge of a jagged ice cliff, where the horizon stretched endlessly and the sun barely pierced the cold, the human and the alien girl had formed a bond that neither could have anticipated. One was from Earth, the other from a distant icy planet, yet they shared a warmth that nothing else could replace. And as they looked out across the frozen expanse, they understood that no matter what dangers awaited them, they would face them together. The frozen wasteland stretched endlessly ahead, a harsh landscape of jagged ice and deep snowdrifts. The human, Aaron, led the way, his boots crunching against the frost, while the alien girl followed closely, her glowing eyes scanning the horizon. Their journey had already tested them in ways neither could have imagined, yet each step only strengthened the bond forming between them. The human had given her warmth, safety, and companionship, and in return she offered trust, resilience, and subtle, unexpected assistance that often surprised him. The morning was pale, and a thin sun barely penetrated the icy clouds above. The air was biting, cold enough to freeze exposed skin in minutes, but the alien girl had adapted in ways Aaron could not. Her small body generated heat in bursts, enough to thaw their water and warm their hands. She moved with careful precision, avoiding the fragile ice formations that could collapse under their weight. Aaron admired her skill, realizing that survival on this planet required more than training. It required instinct, intuition, and an intimate connection with the world itself. As they trekked forward, Aaron noticed subtle tracks in the snow, small, deliberate footprints that suggested they were not alone. He slowed, observing the patterns, and gestured for the alien girl to do the same. She crouched instinctively, her glowing hands hovering over the snow as if reading it. A faint pulse emanated from her palms, illuminating the path ahead and revealing hidden ice ridges. With a soft nod, she guided Aaron around a dangerous crevasse, saving him from a fall that could have been fatal. "You're amazing," Aaron whispered, a rare smile breaking across his face. He did not know if she understood his words, but he spoke them anyway. They were not just words of praise, they were a statement of trust, a recognition that she was more than a fragile creature needing help. She was a partner in this journey. Hours passed. The cold intensified and exhaustion weighed heavily on them. Aaron rationed his food carefully, sharing what little he had with the alien girl. She accepted it gratefully, mimicking the human gestures of eating and drinking. Aaron noticed her fascination with simple human practices, the way he folded his hands, the way he drank water from a small flask. It was as if she were learning not just for survival, but to understand him, to connect beyond the limitations of species. That night they found a sheltered alcove beneath a massive ice formation. The wind howled outside, but inside they were protected. Aaron spread his thermal blanket across the icy floor and sat beside her, wrapping an arm gently around her shoulders. She leaned into him, her body radiating a warmth that contrasted with the harsh cold around them. In the quiet, he realized that survival was no longer just a matter of food and heat. It was about trust, connection, and mutual care. The alien girl, in turn, seemed to recognize his thoughts. She reached out, her small hands brushing his arm, and a soft hum vibrated from her chest. The sound was musical, almost like a song but without words. Aaron smiled faintly, realizing that communication was not always about language. It was about understanding, empathy, and presence. He had saved her with warmth and protection, but she had given him something equally vital: companionship, trust, and a silent understanding that transcended words. As dawn approached, they prepared to move again. The terrain ahead was treacherous, a canyon of ice cliffs with jagged spikes protruding in every direction. Aaron surveyed it carefully, planning a route that would minimize risk. The alien girl studied him, her glowing eyes reflecting both concern and determination. She had learned much in the days they had traveled together and now seemed eager to prove her own abilities. The crossing was slow and dangerous. Each step required precise judgment, and one misstep could mean a long fall into the frozen depths below. Aaron took the lead, but the girl often moved ahead, her heat pulses illuminating unstable ice patches and warning him of hidden dangers. Together, they navigated the treacherous canyon, relying on instinct, trust, and the unspoken bond that had grown between them. Halfway through the canyon, a sudden rumble echoed through the icy walls. A group of scavengers, humanoid but with distinctly alien features, appeared at the far edge, armed with crude weapons. Their intentions were clear. They had been tracking them and they meant harm. The alien girl froze, her small frame trembling, but Aaron stepped forward, placing himself between her and the approaching threat. "Stay behind me," he whispered, not as a command but as a promise of protection. The scavengers advanced cautiously, clearly surprised by the human-alien pair. Aaron assessed their numbers and the terrain. They were outmatched in weaponry, but the girl had an idea. She stepped forward, her glowing hands rising slightly, and emitted a burst of heat so intense that the snow around them steamed and crackled. The scavengers faltered, shielding their eyes from the sudden, blinding warmth. Aaron seized the opportunity. He moved swiftly, guiding both himself and the girl through a narrow passage in the canyon that the scavengers could not easily follow. They emerged on a small plateau, safe for the moment, and the girl exhaled sharply, her relief evident in her glowing eyes. Aaron placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder, silently praising her courage and quick thinking. The encounter reinforced their partnership. Neither was just a survivor relying on the other. They were equals, each contributing in unique ways. Aaron had brought knowledge, strength, and resourcefulness, while the alien girl had offered intuition, adaptability, and an unerring ability to read the environment. Together, they had survived something neither could have managed alone. As they continued their journey, they encountered more challenges: sudden blizzards, hidden crevasses, and patches of thin ice that threatened to give way. But with every obstacle, their trust in each other deepened. They shared food, water, and warmth, learning to anticipate each other's needs. When one was exhausted, the other provided support. When danger loomed, they moved as one. One evening, they stumbled upon a frozen lake, its surface smooth and reflective. The alien girl paused, mesmerized by the sight. She knelt at the edge, touching the ice with delicate fingers. A faint pulse of heat ran through the frozen surface, causing small cracks to appear and revealing a hidden layer of water beneath. Aaron watched her with admiration, realizing how extraordinary she truly was. Not only had she survived alone, but she had adapted and thrived in a way humans could scarcely comprehend. They camped by the lake that night, Aaron using his blanket to create a small shelter, while the girl generated intermittent bursts of heat to keep them warm. They shared a meal of rationed food and melted snow, sitting side by side in companionable silence. The stars above were bright and numerous, scattered across the sky like glittering jewels. Aaron found himself thinking of home, of Earth, but also feeling that perhaps he had found something equally important here, a connection that transcended worlds. Days later, they finally reached the edge of the frozen plains. In the distance, The lights of a human settlement glimmered faintly, promising safety, warmth, and the possibility of communication. The alien girl's eyes widened, and she clutched Aaron's arm instinctively, as if to confirm that he would not leave her behind. He nodded gently, understanding her concern. They had survived together, and he would see her safely through to the end. When they entered the settlement, the reaction was immediate. Humans and aliens alike were astonished to see a human accompanied by a small alien girl, surviving together against impossible odds. Whispers spread quickly, stories of a human who had given warmth, protection, and companionship to an alien in need, and of an alien girl who had matched him step for step, displaying courage, intelligence, and resilience. Aaron and the girl were offered food, medical care, and shelter, but they remained side by side, unwilling to be separated. The girl's glowing eyes flickered with curiosity and relief as she observed the humans around her. Aaron explained, through gestures and broken speech, how they had survived the frozen wasteland together. The settlement listened in awe, realizing that their story was more than survival. It was a testament to the power of empathy, trust, and cooperation across species. In the quiet moments that followed, Aaron and the alien girl shared small gestures of warmth and communication. She would hum softly, a musical sound that conveyed her emotions, and he would respond with words, gestures, or simply a reassuring presence. Neither needed more than that. Their bond, forged in the harshest conditions imaginable, had become unbreakable. Word of their journey spread beyond the settlement. Other human explorers and alien species learned of the story, inspired by the simple yet profound lesson it conveyed. That acts of kindness, trust, and mutual care could transcend differences, overcome adversity, and even change the course of lives. The alien girl, once alone and vulnerable, had found a protector, a friend, and a companion. The human had discovered that strength was not measured by weapons or technology alone, but by the courage to care for another being, even in the coldest, most unforgiving places in the galaxy. As they looked out over the snow-covered plains, Aaron felt a quiet satisfaction. The journey had been perilous, filled with challenges and near-death experiences, yet it had resulted in something greater than survival. The alien girl looked at him with gratitude and trust, and in that gaze, he saw a future full of possibilities. Together they had melted hearts, not through grand gestures or heroic battles, but through simple acts of care, warmth, and understanding. The alien girl rested her small hand on his arm, a silent acknowledgement of their shared journey. Aaron smiled, knowing that their story was far from over. The galaxy was vast, and dangers and adventures awaited them both. But for the first time, each knew they were not alone. They had each other, and that was enough to face whatever came next. In the days that followed, they would continue to explore the settlement, learning from its inhabitants and preparing for the next phase of their journey. The bond between human and alien grew stronger with every shared meal, every moment of care, and every challenge they overcame together. They had survived the frozen wasteland, and in doing so, had discovered a truth that resonated far beyond their own lives. That warmth, trust, and kindness could unite beings across the vastest divides, and that even in the coldest, most hostile environments, hearts could be melted by the simplest of gestures. And so, the human and the alien girl moved forward, side by side, ready to face whatever the galaxy had in store. Their journey had begun with nothing but warmth, and it had blossomed into a story of friendship, trust, and hope, a story that would inspire generations across worlds. Together, they had shown that even in the most unforgiving places, compassion and courage could thrive, and that a single act of giving could change the course of countless lives.